All right. Hello, welcome back to another book video, which we love because book videos are like the best because I get to chat to you, sit down, chat to you, have a cup of tea and talk about books the whole time, which, I mean, who wouldn't love filming that? Okay, so we're actually going to talk about some of my favorite, I can't stop thinking about, would love to read again, romance books. Now, from the start, I was a romance girly. I loved it. I was in my Colleen Hoover era at the time, right? Jumped on that bandwagon. Now that ship has sailed. We read a lot more romance books than just hers, thankfully. And I have some of my favorites. I have some all-time favorites. Now, this is strictly romance. All right, strictly romance. We're not talking about fantasy romance. We're not talking about mystery or thriller romance. No. Just romance. Like, you know when you go to the section of the library that says romance? Those ones. All right. I don't have much here because I'm a fussy girl when it comes to my romance. And, yeah. And this isn't smut, by the way. I mean, maybe one book is. I'll allow it. One book might be a little bit. But they're so good. And I just want to read them again. And I just want to tell the world about them. And I can never stop thinking about all of them at the same time. So I'm gonna dive right in. Let's talk about the first one, which I don't have a physical copy of. I read it on my phone, actually, on like your little library app on your phone, which was Love Hypothesis. Now, this book, by Ali Hazelwood. I loved every single second of that book. I love how Ali has this slow burn. Like when she writes, there's just this slow burn, enemies to lovers, which is my favorite trope, and I'll do a whole separate video on my favorite enemies to lovers. But today we're just focusing on these ones. Enemies to lovers, slow burn, women in STEM, like, I've read it twice. I will admit I have read it twice. Do I want to pick it up again? Yeah, I do want to pick it up again. Anyway, so that's my favorite one. But a close second to that one, which is also written by Ali Hazelwood, is Love on the Brain. The same similar vibe, women in STEM. We have our funky character over here. I do believe it's still enemies to lovers. I haven't read these in a while, so just bear with me. I didn't really write a script for this video, so you're gonna have to bear with me. Anyway, oh yeah, this one's to do with NASA, and Marie really wanted to be in it, and this Levi guy is a bit of an asshole and takes over. Anyway, so this again is an enemies to lovers. This one, it's not my favorite. I didn't really include it in this video, but just so we have a physical copy of like an Ali Hazelwood enemies to lovers, women in STEM, there's also this one that you can read, and I'll allow it. Then we took a drive to the small town of Knockamount, and we picked up the first book, and we didn't put it down for a whole week. We read the whole thing, and then the second week I bought the next one, and then the week after that we bought the next one. And again, it's so good. The cover really got me. Honestly, I love this cover. This is such a simple, stunning cover. I love that if you know this series, you'll know that each of the flowers on the covers represent something in the book, and especially our main character, girlies. So anyway, we love this one. It's a small town romance, a bit of a like mystery in there with a few things. We've got some police action. We've got like a whodunit. We've got a few other things in here, to be honest. And we love it. We love Knox and we love Naomi. They are my favorite characters by far in this series. I love them. I love that Naomi really just steps out of her shell and becomes this bad bad boss girly, but she's also like beautiful, sweet, and feminine. And yeah, I just love that about her. And Nox is this, like, in my mind, he's this really tough, big, gentle giant. Like, he's got all these muscles and might have some tattoos and like really short, like, buzz hair, and maybe looks like my husband. And yeah, and he's this big, tall, buff guy, but he's like this beautiful, gentle soul that like cares about everything. This book is actually a fake dating. If you like a fake dating, I highly suggest this one to be your one. We love a fake dating when it's done right, and this is done right. Good job. But this is my favorite book in the series, and it's the first book in the series. So I feel like if you read this one first, you will really enjoy the series, but also know that I think majority of people would say that this is their favorite. So if you want to just read one, make this be the one that you read. We picked up a bit of an interesting little book. Yeah, this one is one that I definitely kind of think about. It was really deep. Like, I think when you read a romance, you're expecting all of the things. You're expecting the girl and the guy to fall in love. You're expecting, you know, just a really cheesy romance read that you're gonna sit back and relax and, you know, a nighttime read. You know, something easy and a bit quiet, and you know what's gonna happen, you know. This one I could not predict at all. It really took me by surprise, but I did give it a 5-star when I finished reading it because it was that good. I couldn't put it down. And I also loved the fact that it wasn't just that typical romance story. There was so much more in it, and it was so much deeper than I thought it would ever be. And that is Archer's voice. Archer is a bit of a sad soul. He has a soft spot in my heart, and I just really feel sorry for him and everything that he's been through in life. And he is actually deaf. And this is the first time that I have read a book where someone has some form of disability, right? This character is deaf, and so our interactions with our main girl and our main guy is so different than any other romance book that I've read before. Let me kind of read this out because it is also another small town romance book. I think that would still fit in that category. I'll read the blurb for you. It says, I wanted to lose myself in the small town of, Pelion, Maine, to forget everything I had left behind, the sound of rain, the blood, the coldness of a gun against my skin. For 6 months, each breath has been a reminder that I survived and my dad didn't. I'm almost safe again, but the moment I meet Archer Hale, my entire world tilts on its axis and never rights itself again. Until I trespass into his strange, silent, and isolated world, Archer communicates with no one. Yet in his whiskey-coloured eyes, something intangible happens between us. There's so much more to him than just his beauty, his presence, or the way his hands communicate with me, on me. But this town is mired in secrets and betrayals, and Archer is the explosive centre of it all. So much passion and so much hurt, but it's in Archer's silence that we might just find what we need to heal and to live. So they both have pretty deep stories. His is, I feel like, a lot bigger than hers is, but yet again, I mean, she talks about the blood and the rain. She hates the rain for a reason that you'll get to know. And she can't get this feeling of a gun pressed against her head. So, it's so easy to read. It goes back and forth in time as well and flips between characters' POVs. So we have Archer in there as well, which is great, especially for like a deaf character. That way you can like understand more about how he's feeling and everything else. So this is a beautiful one. Next one is a bit of a fun one, honestly. This is the first book that I read from her, and a few booktubers that I had already watched previously didn't actually like the rest of her books. They liked like one and then didn't really like any of the other ones that she wrote. But this is the first and only book that I read from her, and I loved it. I gave it a 5-star as well. I thought it was just a lot of fun. So we have Charlie, Love and Cliches by Ellie Mays. And it was honestly just so much fun. So I'll read the blurb again so we can both figure out what happened, because again, I read this a while ago. Charlie might work at her dad's company, but that doesn't make her life easy. She's the kind of person who always goes the extra mile for a client, remembers colleagues' birthdays and arranges cake, and yet her dad still favors her sister. So Charlie shouldn't be surprised when her dad brings someone in to manage her and the team. But what does surprise her is that the new boss is her guy, the man who she went out with years ago and could never stop thinking about. Charlie wants to hide under the desk, but then she realizes she didn't have to, because William doesn't seem to remember her at all. So it's a bit of a second chance romance, I would say. They met in the past, they kind of had a thing for each other, they dated a little bit, never saw each other again. But yeah, it was this second chance where he comes into the office to, I guess, manage a team. He chooses Charlie to be part of this team, if I recall, or her dad puts her in this team. He realizes then how hard Charlie works. Charlie works so hard and she is so good at her job, and her dad is just not realizing this and not allowing her to step up in the company. But basically they hang out, they do a lot of stuff together, they work together, they slowly fall in love together, and it is really fun. When they write their like dedication or their little blurb at the start, like who this is for, this one says, to dreamers, never let anyone dim your light. You are and always will be the main character of your own story. So what are you waiting for? Go live your life the way you want to live it, and make sure you enjoy every second of it. So that kind of gives you a little bit as well of like Charlie, she's stuck in this business, she can't really go any further. And it's about like her following her heart and her dreams, and yeah, it's a really good book, and I would want to read it again. I had a lot of fun. Reading this book. That's all I remember really clearly of, is like loving this book, not being able to put it down, but also having so much fun with it. All right, I needed a tea break because this last book, it's honestly my favorite book I ever read. Now, I know that that's a statement. I understand, but I stand by it. And that is The Things We Leave Unfinished. This book was so beautiful in so many ways. It was so well written. I loved everything about it. And I'll kind of break it down into why I loved everything about it. Okay, so first off, we have Georgia Stanton. That her late grandmother, Scarlett, the infamous romance writer. So basically at the start, we have Georgia and this guy named Noah, and they meet in a bookstore, and she kind of says something about this guy, Noah's book. I think he goes by a pen name. And, anyway, and she goes, oh, he doesn't really know how to write romance properly, unlike my grandma, Scarlett, who's an amazing writer, an author. Anyway, so then she's kind of in town because George's mum is trying to sell the rights of like Scarlett, who has recently passed away, her rights to like a producing company, so like to make it movies and stuff like that. But there's a lot of issues that happen when you sell these rights. Like they mess up the storylines and they do all that. And so Georgia doesn't want that to happen. Anyway, then they make this agreement to work with Noah in order to write this last book that was left unfinished, hence the title, that was left unfinished by her grandmother, Scarlett. So originally, also, the mum of Georgia wanted to let Noah just write this book. He'll do it. He'll make it a thing. But poor Georgia is just like, this guy does not know how to write romance. Like, he will not do this book justice. Anyway, so they're having a bit of a tiff. It is an enemies to lovers book. I will say that. So that's A. That's why I love it. Enemies to romance. You already know that I'm going to be obsessed. Then we have POV from both our characters. That's the second reason why I love it. Third point is that we go back in time and we also go to the present. So we go, because they're writing the story about the grandmother, Scarlett's life, then we are put back in the past to a war where Scarlett meets her amazing Jamison, I believe his name is, and how they fall in love and their love story. So this book is a love story, basically, that they're writing. So they've got to go back in time, they've got to look at letters that were written, and they've got to look at all of this stuff. So I also like that because they're going back in time and reading these like beautiful love letters that and Jamison wrote, and like how they fell in love and everything. Anyway, it is quite beautiful. So then we're going back into a wartime and realizing how they fell in love, which is this beautiful, incredible story. Then I think that's like the fourth thing that I also love. So like third is like the past and how they go back in the past. Fourth is like there's love letters involved and another whole separate romance to Noah and Georgia as well. The fifth thing that I absolutely love about this book is the plot twist. This is a plot twist that I never saw coming ever in my entire life. I was not expecting that plot twist. I'm not going to ruin a single thing for you because I need you to read this book. It's not a want, it's a need, and then you can let me know. But then we have this beautiful, incredible plot twist that just then changes everything. It absolutely changes everything. And that is the fifth reason why I love this book. And then, yeah, there's so many things in it. I sadly read it on my Kindle. I tend to do that with a lot of books that have been like hyped, or like a TikTok sensation or something like that, which this one is, says it right there. I generally will read it on my Kindle books. Half the time, I don't like it. But then another half the time, I love it. So like, Fourth Wing and Powerless, those two I also read on my Kindle and I absolutely loved those. And I'm like, I need now the hard copy and to reread them and to highlight all these things. Anyway, that's what happened with The Things We Leave Unfinished. So I have to read this again, which I mean isn't a chore. So I've got to read this again and highlight a whole bunch of beautiful things in this. Yeah, as I said, this is my favorite book of all time. If you hadn't read it, I highly suggest reading it. It's just beautiful and there's so much in it. Like, it's not that big, but there's just so much in it. And it wasn't like one of those books where you're like, oh, I just want to be in that world, like Fourth Wing or Powerless or something like that. You want to be in that world. You want to be in that fantasy world. It's not like this at all, but I could not put it down because of just how beautiful it was. It was really beautiful to read, and we have two different romances in there. So we're wanting these characters in the past to fall in love, but we kind of know that they're going to anyway, because that's what the book's about. So we're wanting those two characters to fall in love, and then we want like a thing between Noah and Georgia, and yeah, and then we have the enemies to lovers in there, and it's a lot in one book, and I'm very impressed by this author. I actually haven't seen anything or read anything else that she has written, to be honest, but I know that her where is it? Her thing at the end, her acknowledgement at the end, I'm pretty sure, is she thanks God for it. She said, first and foremost, thank you to my Heavenly Father for blessing me beyond my wildest dreams. And I was like, that's their first thank you. And I'm like, that's incredible. So I definitely want to read more of her stuff for sure. But yeah, I hope that you can take something away from this video, maybe a few new romance books to add to your collection. If you have read these or are going to read them, please let me know. I would love to know your thoughts. Everyone is different when it comes to books. Everyone's type and style and everything is different. There's reasons why I love these books and why they are my favorite romance books of all time. I love them and they make me happy, and I would read them again in an absolute heartbeat. So yeah, these these are my girls. Yeah, and let me know what you would rate them. If you have read them before, let me know in the comments what you rated them. I'd be super interested. Again, there are so many books that I've read that people have absolutely loved and given a 5-star and said that that's their favorite book in the entire world. And I've read and been like, this is the worst book I've read in my entire life. So again, everyone's different. So, but give them a go. If you haven't read any of them, just pick one up. The next time you're at Target or Big W, they're all there. So yeah. Okay. Bye.